Like naked in the context of Genesis was it's intimacy. It's like being known and still being loved. You know, you can walk around and with, you know, warts and all, and people, and you know what I mean? And you're accepted and you're known and loved, right? It's a huge need. So when you are aware, now you're hyper aware of all these problems, you're going to freak out and you're going to mask it somehow. And so I believe deconstruction is a giant mask, particularly the hate against the church. Hate is a great way. So when Cain failed, when his offering was rejected, he killed Abel, right? It's like he's like the first deconstructor, right? This is my nakedness. I'm a failure with God, and so now Abel must die. And that to me is what deconstruction is. Abel has to die. I have to assassinate the church. I need to assassinate my brothers because I've failed at the altar. And so if I'm failing, then nobody's winning, if that makes sense. So I think that is the big reason why these guys become so toxic against the church, is because it's like I call it Colin Kaepernick syndrome. You know, you get rejected from the NFL because you just weren't that good. So now you have to problematize every layer of the NFL while desperately wanting to be a part of the NFL still. And that's exactly what it is. Abel must die. So it's Colin Kaepernick syndrome, right? So of course they're going to attack the organization because they desperately want to be a part of the organization, but their nakedness has been exposed, and they've decided my nakedness will never be accepted. I can't live up to God's expectations. I'll never be able to do this. And so their way of their fig leaf bikini, their masking, is hating the church. Right. It's very, very strange psychology, but it's all there in Genesis 3 and 4.
Before I understood Genesis 3, it was interesting to see before when the author of Genesis points out, and they were naked and they were not ashamed. Right. He points that out first in the text to then share the significance of what it was like for them to be ashamed by their nakedness, meaning they were never meant to be, just like you said, they were never meant to be ashamed because they had intimacy with the Father. And I think that in a lot of ways, in deconstruction, that first part is lost, right? Yeah. It's the intimacy with the Lord, because when you're intimate with the Lord, what does the Lord love? He loves his church. So if you love the Lord, if you're intimate with the Lord, then you will also love the church. It's interesting how those who are away in their shame hate the thing that God loves the most.
Yeah. Well, shame will always get you to blame somebody because you want to deflect it to somebody else. And it's interesting to me that when you've got this very clear picture in Ephesians of Jesus saying, I'm washing the church with the water of my word. He's not saying the church is washed. He's saying he's washing it. He's getting her ready. He's not saying the church is perfect. Beta Satan, church hurt, church betrayal. What if John and I will say people tried to push on that wound. I remember we, went to some meetings. People were like, I see a betrayal in your life, and we were like, yes. But the Lord was so good. He said, you can live in your bondage, or you can actually work your way out of this, and you can forgive people who are not asking for it. And I think a lot of times people think forgiveness means they return into the abuse, but forgiveness is actually releasing God to work in their life and God to work in your life. And the kindness is not an approval of the action, but man, the hostility that you hear from people that have church hurt, I 100% agree with you. It is like a spurned lover. It is so angry. Like they would, if they could come up to me, they'd stab me in the heart. I mean, I've been physically threatened, monetarily. I'm like, what? And I've never even been a pastor. Like, what is going on? Because they want to punish somebody because they feel rejected. But again, Cain had that option. If you do right, it'll be accepted. And they're like, no. This is not it. And so I do feel like people that have a heart for deconstruction without a heart for reconstruction, they're just agents of destruction. They're not moving anything forward. They're just tearing the place down. It feels like the riots, they're burning things to the ground. They're destroying their neighbors. They're not going to come back in and rebuild anything.
No.
It's just venting their anger.
Yeah.
And the wrath of man or woman never works the righteous purposes of God.
Mm-hmm.